Hi everybody, welcome you all to the brand new academic year 2021-2022. I'm Shiva and I'll be handling economics this year also. Last year we have seen what is microeconomics and all the topics related to what is microeconomics. In this year's economics curriculum, we'll be seeing what is macroeconomics and all the major aggregates that are related to macroeconomics. In today's session, we are going to see an introduction into macroeconomics. In the first chapter, there are 9 major subtopics which are an introduction into the two major types of economics, which is macro and microeconomics. Secondly, we're going to see what is the meaning of macroeconomics, its importance, its scope, its limitations, and we'll be seeing what is economy in general and its different types, and then we'll move on to three major systems of economy, and then we'll be seeing what is concepts of, that is what are different concepts of macroeconomics, and finally we'll be ending the topic with circular flow of income and its three major types. Without further ado, we'll jump into the introduction. So in introduction, we are going to see what are the major branches of economics, and we'll be seeing something about the terminology. In the major branches, I've already told you there are two major branches, which is macroeconomics and microeconomics. We've already seen what is microeconomics in the last year. So, what is microeconomics in general? It studies the implication of incentives and decisions, which specifically about how those affect the utilization and distribution of resources. That is, we've already seen microeconomics is generally about allocation of resources to different factors of production. Okay. Next is microeconomics shows how and why different goods have different values, how individuals and businesses conduct and benefit from efficient production and exchange, how individuals best coordinate and cooperate with one another, and it deals with prices and production in single markets and the interaction between different markets. But it leaves the study of economy-wide aggregates to macroeconomics. That is, we only talk about individual units in microeconomics. We don't see about an economy as a whole in microeconomics. Now let's move on to what is macroeconomics. First of all, John Maynard Keynes is known as the father of macroeconomics because in his book The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, which he published in 1936, he introduced the concept of macroeconomics and he talked about the Great Depression that happened during that period. So we'll move on to where the terminology of micro and macro came from. Micro and macroeconomics was first coined by a Norwegian economist by the name of Ragnar Frisk. He coined these terms micro and macroeconomics in 1933. A fun fact is he was also the co-recipient of the first Nobel Prize in Economics in 1969, which he shared with Jan Tinbergen. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic, which is meaning of macroeconomics. In this, first thing is macroeconomics. The word macro was derived from a Greek word known as macros, which means the study of economy as a whole. It's nothing but in macroeconomics, we are studying different aggregates like national income, employment, output, inflation, business cycle, poverty, inequality, investment and savings, capital formation, infrastructure development, international trade, balance of trade, and payments. All these things are not studied in microeconomics. They are only studied in macroeconomics because we are studying the economy as a whole thing instead of different singular aggregates like national economy, national income, employment, and such. There is also an alternate name for macroeconomics, which is income theory. If you see in this image, we can see macroeconomics is study of economy-wide phenomena. It includes national income, unemployment, inflation, national output, includes national, regional, and global economics. And if you see, microeconomics is in bottom. That is, it only deals with individual units inside a economy. It doesn't relate between different economic units in microeconomics. Okay, now let's move on to the next topic, which is importance of macroeconomics. Okay, so why do we need macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is needed to understand the function of economy, to evolve suitable strategies to solve the basic problems prevailing in an economy, and we need to study macroeconomics to better predict how a future of our country's economy will be. And it is also used to formulate suitable policies to avoid any economic crises. Next is, it is used to understand the future problems, needs, and challenges of an economy so that we can create or evolve any precautionary measures needed in order to face those challenges. The third one is, it provides ample opportunities to use scientific investigation to understand the reality. It helps make meaningful comparison, and also it helps in analysis of economic indicators. Basically, what this means is, a macroeconomic study will help study the entire economy so that we don't fall into depression, or we don't have to worry about frequent business cycle fluctuation. What this basically means is, we have to study macroeconomics to understand the functioning of the entire economy. We have to study the different aggregates like unemployment, poverty, and we have to study where we are losing national income, and what are the challenges facing in case of an epidemic or a pandemic like what we are facing today. If at all the current pandemic situation was actually forecasted before, the economy could be doing very well. So it is very important that we continue to study and monitor our economic changes on the wider scale as a nation and as a whole world. That is why macroeconomics is very important. Okay, so next is, what are the scope for macroeconomics? The first thing is national income. The trends in national income and its composition provides a long-term understanding of the growth process of an economy. We'll be studying what is national income in the next chapter. In simple terms, national income is the total value of output produced by the country in a single year. That is, it gives the value of the entire manufacturing capacity or entire buying capacity of the people, so that we can understand what is the actual level of economy in the people in a country. Okay, the next is what is known as inflation. Inflation is the steady increase in general price level. A very good example is the inflation in fuel prices. About 10 years ago, our petrol price was at around 30-40 rupees per liter. In today's market, in today's situation, the petrol price is at almost 100 rupees per liter. So this is what is called as inflation. It's the steady increase in general price level in each and every year. We'll be studying about different types of inflation in the coming chapters. Okay, and this inflation is studied by estimation by constructing various price index numbers such as wholesale price index and consumer price index. The next one is business cycle. There are four different stages in a business cycle. The first one is boom, the second one is recession, third is depression, and the fourth is the recovery stage. We'll also be studying in detail about what a business cycle is in the coming chapters. But in general, macroeconomics study is important to understand the different business cycles in different economic activities. Okay. The next is, it is important to study poverty and unemployment in a country so that economic growth can be improved. If at all poverty is high, the economic growth is normally understood to be very less. So we have to reduce poverty, we have to reduce unemployment, we have to increase employment levels in a country. So all this happens when you are studying macroeconomics at all levels. Next, it is also important for economic growth and creating economic policies to overcome basic problems and also to achieve growth, which is the main motive for any economic activity. Why do we buy, or why do we manufacture, or why do we produce goods? It's all because we aim to achieve growth in our own lifestyle as well as in the societal lifestyle. Yep. Next, we are going to see what are the different limitations of macroeconomics. In limitations, what is generally found is macroeconomics tend to excessively generalize the economy as a whole, and it also assumes homogeneity among the individual units. What these two terms generally mean is, in macroeconomics, we don't study the individual units separately as we do in microeconomics. So what happens is, in macroeconomics, all the different aggregates like poverty, unemployment, they all need to be studied individually. But sometimes it all generalizes the whole economy into some single units. So this causes trouble in understanding. And we also have fallacy of composition, which is what is good for an individual may not be good for a nation. Sometimes when we study macroeconomics, we don't study the individual goodness separately. We just consider, okay, if it's a country, what is good for India is also said to be good for all the people in India. But that is not the case. It's always different. We as Indians will not be having the same kind of needs or wants as the people in the north. North people will not be having the same needs and wants as people in the west or east. Each and every single state or each and every area of people will have different needs and wants. So we can't consider a good for one single individual to be good for the entire nation. That is what is called as fallacy of composition. And the next one is, it will also be different from country to country. What we consider good in India cannot be good in any other country, may not be good. If you are considering cotton based clothing to be good for summer climate in India, it will not be the same for people in Russia, because Russia is almost having winter throughout the year. Snowfall is there throughout the year. So they can wear cotton products, cotton based clothing and roam around. So that is what is called as fallacy of composition, because macroeconomics does not understand or differentiate between what is good for an individual and a nation, good for different nations together and such. And sometimes non-economic factors also determine economic activities, but they don't find a place in macroeconomic books. There are activities which will not be directly affecting any economy, but they will also in some way affect economic activities, and those activities also sometimes do not find a place in macroeconomic books, which is another limitation. Next is economy and its types. In economy and its types, we'll be seeing the different definitions, what are the fundamental activities and different types based on different kinds of activities. First, let's see the different definitions. The first one was given by A.J. Brown. He says that economy is a system by which people earn their living. The second one is given by J.R. Hicks. An economy is a cooperation of producers and workers to make goods and services that satisfy the wants of the consumers. That is, producers and people who buy, that is, as consumers, they both get into a cooperation. For instance, rice producers or rice manufacturer, they produce rice. So once they produce rice, what happens next? People tend to buy them. So as consumers, we buy rice from rice producers. So this is a cooperation between consumers and producers. This is an economic activity. The next is economy is referred to any system or area where economic activities are carried out. There will be different characteristics, and it is important that we study the functions and how the activities are different. First, what is the basic fundamental activity in any economy? There are two. They are production and consumption. In production and consumption, why we produce and why we consume, basic and very fundamental motive of any economy is to achieve growth. And these are supported by exchange activities. And these exchange activities can be put under three different segments. One is economic activities, second one is non-economic activities, and the third is external activities from other economies. We'll see these one by one. First, what are different economic activities? First one is transportation, banking, advertising, planning, and government policies. Some of the non-economic activities that influence major economic decisions in a country are environment, health, education, entertainment, governance, and regulations. For instance, let's say environment. How environment will affect the economic activities in a country. For instance, a few years back, there was tsunami in the country. It affected most of the coastal cities and towns. What happened back then? Due to the large destruction by tsunami, the coastal areas were very much affected, and government has to induce or infuse a lot of funds to help people in those areas to grow. So it's a major burden on the country's economy. So this is one of the examples of how environmental changes can affect economy in any country. Let's consider health. What's happening now? We are under pandemic lockdown. COVID-19 has been spreading throughout the world, and it has been affecting all the major economic activities in countries throughout the world. So this is how health related aspects of human beings affect economic activities. Next is education, entertainment, governance, regulations provided by government bodies. And then we consider external factors or external activities from other economics, which are import and export, international relations with other countries, immigration and immigration laws, foreign investment, foreign exchange, earnings, and such. Okay. So next we'll move on to what are the different types based on these different activities. So these are the 7 major types of economy based on status of development, status of activities, scale of activities, nature of functioning, operation, advancement, and finally level of their national income. First is, when you are considering status of development, countries can be considered under developed country, underdeveloped country, undeveloped country, and developing countries. Okay, based on their activities, they can be differentiated into 3 major types, that is capitalism, socialism, and mixed economy, which we'll be seeing in the next topic. Next is based on scale of activities. Based on scale of activities, it can be either a small economy or large economy. And based on functioning, we have a static economy and dynamic economy. Based on nature of operations, we have closed and open. Similarly, based on nature of advancement, we have traditional and modern. And based on income, we have low, medium, and high economy in different countries of the world. So these are all about economy and its types. With this, we end today's session. In the next session, we'll be seeing about the remaining 3, which are economic systems, concepts of macroeconomics, and circular flow of income. Thank you.